let's bring this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Was Robert going to be here tonight? You don't think so?
No.
Okay. Okay. We have no guests. Thank you everybody for being here. We're all here, so we'll move right into 3.01. This is the point of the meeting for comments on matters not already on the agenda. Comments on agenda items will be accepted when the item comes up during the meeting. Interested persons may also submit views in written form to the clerk or superintendent prior to the meeting, and those comments will be brought to the attention of the board during the meeting. Do we have any correspondence or public participation? Nope. All right. That, we'll move right into 4.01, resignations for information purposes only. Extremely sorry to see that resignation, but 4.02, employment extracurricular. Mr. O.
Yep, I'll be recommending for assistant high school volleyball coach. I'm not sure I'll say the first name, so forgive me, but it's Myshada?
Yep.
Myshada Watson?
I move the School Board of Trustees approves the hiring of Myshada Watson for CHS Assistant Volleyball Coach for the 25-26 school year. Second.
Okay, a motion second. Any public comment on this agenda item? Any for the board? Francis.
Aye.
Sabrina.
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
Tiffany.
Aye.
Aye. I'm getting used to this rotation. Forgive me.
It's been like 2 months already. Right?
Yeah, well. It's been quiet. I'll be over there. 4.03. School calendar.
Yep, bringing it back. It went through our CTE person, and they said that this year we would need to actually balance out. The quarters wasn't long enough, so there's some explanation, the specifics on here, but basically that's what happened. We had to balance out the quarters, so no real changes with anything except for we also were so close with our minutes. We took the February 25th and made it a full day, so we added some hours there, not too many, just a couple, just to give us a little more buffer. And that was the one that was the Wednesday of district basketball tournaments. So kind of got brought to my attention, that's not always a half day anyway. So we stuck with the half day for the Thursday anyway, so that we usually do. So we just added a couple hours back on and we balanced out the quarters.
And Wednesday's a full day.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Wednesday, the 25th is a full day.
Correct.
Because it still says half days on the calendar.
So it did?
Yep, it says February 25th through 26th, half days district basketball.
Right above that, does it say 225 full day?
Oh,
In the
okay,
pink?
yes.
This is the
But are we gonna
proposal.
remove the other part so that people aren't
The
confused?
proposals are in the pink.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Yeah, we'll fix it up.
Do they usually have games on Wednesdays?
They're later, I found out. They don't start till 6
Oh,
p.m.
Okay, perfect.
It's really good, yeah.
great. I move that the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the calendar edits as presented for the 25-26 school year.
Second.
You have a motion second. Any public comment on this?
We do have one, Marietta Croft.
Go ahead, Marietta.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I just had a question with the change in the calendar. How is that going to change the grading window for teachers?
I haven't done the grading window yet. I'll give the same amount of time that I gave this year though.
All right, thank you.
You bet. You're welcome.
Congratulations on your baby.
Hey,
Oh, did she have the baby? Yeah. Congratulations.
Any other public comment? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
All right. 4.04, workers' comp.
Basically, that's just our renewal. Our rates stayed the same for workers' comp as it did last year. And we had just a little bit of an uptick in the claims this year compared to last year, but still really great. It was like 7,000, so that's really good.
There we go.
Yep.
Perfect.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approve the fiscal year 26 renewal of the MSGIA Workers' Compensation Program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this agenda item? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
MSGIA.
So this is our property and liability insurance. As you guys know, the 1 year after the gym, it went sky high. We have one other big year on our claim, and when that one falls off, we'll start seeing it drastically lower, I hope. This year it did increase a little bit, so I did ask the questions. Why? He said there was an inflationary 2%, and then overall every school gets an increase, and ours was 5.3. So that's why there's an increase of 13,225 this year. But we're hoping next year and the year after that, you guys will start to see that number come down. So it's still pretty high, unfortunately.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the fiscal year 26 MSGIA Property and Liability Insurance renewal as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this agenda item? Any further board?
I'd just like to say thanks for filling us in on that info as to how it might go down in the future. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
4.06, curriculum rotation.
All right, so we followed policy 2120 procedure to align our curriculum for ELA. We did that grades K through 12 using Montana's content standards and the real criteria. From there, we created proficiency scales to assess our priority standards. And then we went into the textbook selection process. We used the Reading League's criteria for material selection for K through 5. From that, we were able to select Amplify CKLA as our primary reading and writing instructional materials. Research, we were able to identify that one weak spot in Amplify CKLA is their phonics and phonemic awareness. And so we chose to supplement that with a resource that we're already currently using, which is Heggerty. The problem with our current resource with Heggerty is it's 20 years old, copyright 2005. So we want to update that for our staff. In the middle school and high school, we used the Ed Reports criteria for material selection. And we only selected writing materials in the middle school and high school. So we did Step Up to Writing, which is also a resource that we're currently using. We got the updated version along with professional development for that. We also got right source materials because that's what the high school selected. And we wanted to make that transition from 8th grade to high school a little bit smoother for kids. They decided to go with the reading instructional materials that they're currently using, which they use whole books, novels, and whatnot to teach reading at the middle school and high school levels, which I think there's a fairly strong argument for that. Instead of having kids try to create, these grandiose assumptions or inferences about text based on little pieces of larger novels. Let's just have the kids read the whole novel and try to make their inferences based off of that. So I support what they're doing. We ran it through the curriculum committee, we ran it through the steering committee, and both approved the proposed instructional materials.
I move that the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the ELA textbooks for the 25-26 school year as recommended by the steering committee as presented.
Second?
Okay, motion second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Thank you, Derek, for doing that.
Derek, you're doing a lot of work.
It was fast and furious, but I really enjoyed it.
Francis, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna add too, I mean, those are some really good companies. I know CKLA, and it's one of the best. When you mentioned ed reports, they go through and they literally analyze and grade and score basically all different kinds of educational materials. And if they rank high there, that's great. It'll be really good material. And I just know that program. I've heard a lot about it over the last couple of years, so we could change.
Francis.
Aye.
Rena.
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
Tiff.
Aye.
Aye. 4.07.
This attachment doesn't have the obsolete list,
You're correct.
so I don't know if we can vote on it without the list.
Does the list have to be on board docs? Because I can forward you the list that was intended for board docs.
I can display it here as well, however. Sorry.
What does the policy say?
I know it has to be published in the newspaper.
Right.
That's after you guys approve it, right?
Yeah, I think if you pop it up there.
I think you can
We
too. I
can
didn't get
approve
any
it.
questions
Yeah.
of anyone saying, hey, there's no report attached and no one is here to talk on it. So I think you definitely can as long as it's shared.
And it still goes into the newspaper
Yeah.
14 days after we pass the
Yeah.
resolution, so, yep.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And there's 400 items on it, over 400 items. So if you'd like me to email you what's up there, so if you want to get a closer look at it, I can do that. Francis won't be able to see it from.
Yeah, go ahead and email it to me. I can pull it up right now too.
Okay.
Just one, yeah.
What?
One time there, yeah.
Just touch it, yeah.
Yep. One of the screen sharing.
Can you publish this notice?
Not now.
Is it just a little blurb, and then people can come in and look at the full list?
Well, it depends on how you guys want to, how you want to get rid of the equipment too. So we can have a link, as I think was what we did last time when you used e-waste. But if you wanted to have a sale, then we can have a sale and publish the list then too. You could still have a link. I think that's what we did last time, was put a link in the newspaper
Okay.
posting.
Yeah, I did a short link, so it wasn't some crazy long thing that nobody can type. It might be struggling.
scroll as you guys need me to. Oh, goodness.
Did you email it to all of us?
No, but I will.
Okay, I can't see that.
Yeah, agree.
I get like.
I can't
I can see
it.
that,
Close
I
to the
can't
door.
see this. Yeah.
See how small that was?
That was really small.
I'm right in front of it.
There, it's bigger. There we go.
There we go.
Quick question, Evan, is there anything on here that is,
Yeah.
That you wouldn't recommend to go
Yeah.
to the waste?
There are a few things that are no longer useful for the school. There's, I don't know, let's say like 10 desktops, that number is not exact, but say about a dozen desktop computers that maybe somebody in town could have use for. We can't use it. I mean, it'd have to be like a computer hobbyist to do it. Some old laptops that could be transformed into something like a Chromebook, or somebody in town might want to use it. But they're all computers that are no longer supported by Microsoft. Like we can't put any, major software on it anymore, just with the age. So that item would be one that someone could see it and say there's still life in it. Yep, it's just not life for the school. It's not damaged or anything. And then we have like maybe 100, I forget how many we put on here, but we have the old Chromebook bags that have like probably 300 Chromebook bags sitting at the middle school that can't be used anymore. We've pulled out the ones that are still in good shape that we're going to use this year for freshmen. But there's no school that would want that. I can't find anybody to donate it to, and it has our school logo on it, and those will likely end up in the dump. So that I wanted to bring that to your attention if we want to like put a notice of people can come in and get one for free, like a giveaway, or I don't know. It's just it might look odd and raise some questions of why are we throwing away Chromebook bags, but they're dirty or they're broken, and we have 300 of them. We don't need them. And some of them are too small for Chromebook sizes today. But yeah, those are the only items. There are some projectors that still have some life with them that we don't use anymore. So that could be sold for a small fee, or if there's a way to properly do a giveaway, like just people come in and sign that they've taken one. And then some printers. There is one printer, well, there's a few printers that are still probably have some life to them. They've been sitting in closets for years that we found. But Brenda Minahan had asked me last year if BPA could have a printer. And so that's one possibility. But I didn't know if, since BPA is within a school club, if we can just give BPA a printer and they, support it. I don't know how that worked with the budget, if they're a separate group or if they're considered one of our groups. But she was asking for that last year, a smallish one that she could travel with to use for BPA.
I think you could give it to them if they're going to get rid of it anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
If anybody in town saw these and said, hey, I want one of those little laptops or one of those little desktop computers, I mean, it's, that's what I wasn't sure if the board had to approve giving it away, because everything else is scheduled to be e-waste. I mean, if it's not given away or sold, it's going to go to e-waste. But what's the recommendation for that if somebody does want one of those computers?
I mean, it's going to e-waste anyway.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. We've got our use out of it that we needed. And if someone else can find use for it, why not?
I would just, I mean, what do you expect to get out of it, right?
Oh, I mean, it'd be $5, $10. I mean, it's really not worth collecting the money. It'd be fine. I just didn't know if maybe the newspaper posting, if interested in something, contact central office, and then we can just go from there if anybody does.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be easier for you, like you could either do that to where they randomly stop in, or you could do from this time to this time, this day,
Yeah.
here's where all the equipment is.
Yeah.
Stop by, And then whatever they don't want after that, then you can
One and
just.
done, yeah, give them a time,
Okay.
so it's not a long, so
Yep.
then you can get rid of it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Is it all in one central location?
One pile. I can pull out the things that.
Around
No,
it.
no, no. I could just pull it out and set it in a room.
That's what I would do. I agree with that.
Yeah. let's
Just give them I'm gonna be available.
This day, from this time, anything that's not chosen will go to e-waste.
Okay.
Yeah.
That works.
For the dump, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But with this list plus the one you approved last month, it's like probably 1,000 items, or well, maybe close to 1,000 items that we've found that can be e-wasted. Just little nooks and crannies over the years that build up and we got them out.
Kudos to you and your team for
Yeah.
going through all this stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like if we can truly get this through e-waste, I've contacted e-waste to make sure they're still doing their free pickup, which I expect they will be. But if we can get that done, we are back almost at a clean slate to start storing truly now up-to-date e-waste stuff, not things that have been left over for years.
Years, yeah.
So,
Great job.
Works for me.
And then you can
Nice.
choose a date and time when she does the publication.
Okay.
Okay. I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the method of distribution of the obsolete inventory items as discussed per policy 7251, dispose of school district property without a vote.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Perfect. 4.08, transportation routes.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to bring this to you guys because there was a mistake, error brought to my attention this afternoon. So I want to go back over this and we'll have the meeting the night before that we have to do this to
To the committee, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
shouldn't take long.
I move to table item 4.08, transportation routes for 25-26 school year until our bill.
Okay, motion second. Any public comment on this? Francis?
Oh, I have a quick question, really quick. So with the borders being closed currently, is there any plans for discussion with, asking if we could possibly reopen those?
That's not something we can discuss.
And the motion right
Yeah.
now is to just table the item, not to discuss the item.
Okay.
So as soon as Mr. Earl gets back to us, then we can open it up for discussion with a motion and second.
Okay.
All right.
Yep,
So
sounds good
on
to me.
The motion for table, I have a motion and second. Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. There are a lot of policies.
Yeah. Let me take over from here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, yeah, there were a lot of policies sent to us here just recently by MTSBA. So the first few here are new. So I'm just gonna go through. I put in what the reasons why, and originally what they said in the original email with attached 19 policies was that these were ones that they wanted us to align or recommended that we align with recent legislation. So I have most of them here. I kept a few back, and there's one that we'll talk about here in a couple minutes that we do already have. So the first one, policy 1009 FE. Let's see, this one, HB 359 amends the requirement for hiring a recently retired teacher to allow for hiring a retired teacher who is employed to mentor a newly hired teacher. So that's to do with mentors. And if you saw, it's all in red letters, the recommendation. So one at a time. So we don't vote today, right?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This is a new policy, or we're amending an existing policy?
New.
This one would be a new policy.
And we're also adopting the red.
Yes, there was a couple, I forget which ones, there were a couple that were maybe new to MTSBA, but we didn't have.
And we
So
don't have
that's
to,
why
or
you'll
we
see-
do have to adopt them.
Well, they told me in an email too, I said, oh, same thing, with this is legislation, but you're not making us. It's like, they said they're not gonna be telling us anymore if they're gonna if it's recommended or required. Yeah, that was kind of fun to get that message because when they have to make it policy just because it's law, but we have to follow law.
Right.
So then.
So that is, to me, it's
we'll make
required.
policy.
So all of these follow law.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And they want us to do them by July 1st, so, if we could,
If we choose.
if we choose. Because it's only recommended, not required, but if we,
Even though it's the law,
yeah, and they said that you do need to follow the law,
but it's
but
not.
you don't have to make it a
It's
policy.
It's not
You just have to follow the law, but then you gotta be aware of all the laws, and if it's not
Mm.
policy, then it's trickier. So they did come back with the next sentence, so we highly recommend that you do adopt them.
So this is the thing about policy that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's gonna be required by law, it should just be policy.
Yeah.
We don't have to adopt it, we don't do anything, just put it in our policy.
That's why I put all the ones in there that I thought we probably didn't need to wait on. And there's a couple that I wanted to, there's some curriculum stuff that I just need to visit with some other admin people about them before I bring them here.
Well, that's where it gets a little tricky because that red lettering in there, I know legislation passed to allow them to come back in and mentor, but I would think the school would still have a choice whether you want to allow that, I guess.
Right.
Do you already have a mentor program? Do you want to open that? I mean, so I'm just saying that legislation passed, but
Right, so it's first read. So I'm really treating this as discussion, thinking, if not, any questions you might have, anything that you might need me to do or get with somebody, follow up on what, because sometimes these laws can be really long too. So, I can check those over, whatever you might think after having looked at those. If you want to wait on something, that's fine. Again, they're not telling us we have to have it in by then, just recommended. So we can take a little more time and look at those, how they apply to us, whether we want to do all of them or not.
So
Whatever follow-ups you might want me to do.
what's our policy for approving policies? I know, does anyone know what the number is? Because some of them say you only have to do it on a first reading if it's required by law.
right.
But we're going to do 2 readings on all of these anyway?
That's what we don't know. That's what
Well-
MTSBA wasn't clear about, right?
Right,
Yeah,
and I got
they
back,
weren't.
then I asked him, okay, so you're saying some are, how do you put it? He didn't say required, he said, basically required. So I said, which ones are those? Can you tell me? He said, off the top of my head, there's 3 of them. He named 250, 471, and 591, he said. So one of them was out of district, one of them was the Indian Ed for All. There's some minute changes actually to one of them, just a couple words. But, yeah, it was really an odd. I liked when they just told us, these are required because
Right.
you have to, and
Right.
these you don't have to. And they said they're no longer doing that. So that's why, and I just got that word, actually, the final word today. Like I said, there's a lot of them to go through and try to
Mm-hmm.
figure out and what to hear and what we already had and what we didn't have.
What's required by July 1? Those 3?
A rest, how was it, urgent? Remember that?
Yeah, I
email?
saw
Yeah,
that.
it was.
Because our policy 1310 says new or revised policies that are required or have required language changes based on state or federal law or are required changes by administrative rule be adopted after the first reading if sufficient notice has been given.
And these are based on law.
So I would say first reading would
First
put them
reading,
into effect.
Good, based on what you just read. But if you don't want to, so you could do it on first reading, but you don't have to.
I can still
Okay,
remember
so
that.
let's talk about this one. This one basically protects teachers' retirement. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
With the
so
150 days?
Yeah, before they had to go 150 days in a break in service after they retire. This is letting them come back in as a substitute for a licensed teacher or mentor a newly hired teacher. Now, that's where I was saying, I don't know why it has to be put into a policy like this that we don't already have, because TRS is the one that took this to legislation to get it passed. So I have to follow TRS rules. And then it would be up to you guys whether, you know, if you guys were like, I already follow the rule of the 150 days, you know? And so you guys would be saying, there's a lot more to it there than just that little red stuff
Yeah, it's a whole new policy that we didn't
Yeah.
have.
And a lot of that stuff is stuff that we're already following. We follow the EA procedure in there because we look up law and we know what it is. So, I mean, some of this stuff we're already following.
I was gonna say there's,
The emergency authorization of employment.
for one thing, we're policy driven. So,
There is each have gonna just about anything.
right.
I mean, so, I mean, policies where I typically go first before the law. If it's not policy, look at the law. We do that a lot in admin, just searching and.
It's almost like they took the law and then just put it in here. So even that quality educator loan repayment that you saw, they just put it into here, but
Doesn't really fit.
it's already something that
You do.
yeah, is known. So yeah, it's just kind of weird, this one for me. Do you see anything, Chris, in there that we're like not doing that?
No. That's the whole thing, is that it's sticky because of the
Required, recommended.
But nothing in this policy gives you guys pause.
Like, we're already doing it, right?
Like we
So we're
shouldn't
just
do it.
backing it up? I mean, we're just saying we're doing it, now we're doing it again?
I mean, we're following the law. Do we need this
Yeah.
policy in place to prove that?
To me, no.
No.
That would say no
no
my
too.
question.
Okay.
yeah, because if you go through it all, I mean, substitutes, they'll have to have that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And if it comes out later on that we have to implement this, even though we're doing it, I say we can bring it
We
back
still
to the
can.
table.
Hey,
Yeah.
just- I just
Yeah.
want everybody to see them,
Okay,
do just what you're doing, take a look at it, not just us.
okay. Well, I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees does not approve the first reading of new policy 1009 FE, recruitment and retention, flexible instructor licensing as presented. Because we already follow the laws listed in the policy.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Any public comment on this? Any further board?
I do want to clarify, we're doing already what was in red, correct? That you added? It's already
Well,
covered?
it's new.
It's new.
It's new. So if somebody did want to come back as a mentor, they would ask to come back,
As a-
and now it's allowed, where it was
Okay.
never allowed
So
before.
it's allowed with you, without us even,
But we have to follow the law.
right,
It's kind of it, we
okay,
can
okay, I
choose
just
if
wanted
we
to
put a
clarify
policy or
that,
not.
okay, yep.
I think the advantage sometimes might be, because you're thinking of the pros and cons too, is if I look at the policy first, I see it, then, I mean, maybe Brittany knows it, but I don't. You know,
Right,
then there it is.
Okay.
I don't check any further.
Okay.
So I usually do. The policy,
Kind of was like substitutes were in there, I mean, stuff like that, but those look like things we were already doing anyway. And if you didn't want to follow the mentor, it was allowing them to come back and mentor is all that the
Right.
law was
if we
doing.
weren't, then we,
Doesn't mean you have to still, you could still choose not to, or if somebody asked and you're like, we don't really have a need for that now, you don't have to, it's just
Right.
allowing the
Okay.
employee to do it, so.
Makes sense to me.
gonna follow that law.
Yeah.
Francis?
Oh, I was just gonna say, thank you for clarifying. Yeah, good discussion. Aye.
Samantha?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Yep.
Aye.
Aye. Policy 2600.
Okay, 2600, House Bill 381 allows for students to earn credits towards graduation for working on congregate care facilities, child care facilities, or school age programs under certain circumstances. So you might want to take a look at this one here and see if you want kiddos to get credit for that. They just kind of spell out all of that.
We've already adopted this policy?
No, this is
This is a new one too?
Yeah. The first few are all new. And this is when I thought about waiting. You know, I knew we wouldn't have Mrs. Nansel here at this time to kind of go through this. So this is one that I almost didn't put in. I just kind of wanted you guys to take a look at it, discuss it, see if you wanted to do that or not. And I've seen it done before. It's, you know,
So is this law saying if you do allow work-based learning credits, then you also have to allow credit for working in a childcare facility? Is that what that's saying? Or is it saying we have to allow work-based credits for all?
I know we have to allow work-based credits for CTE. That goes aligned with our CTE. It's co-op is what it is.
So are they
work-based learning.
adding the childcare piece in? Has that not been part of
Probably,
it?
let me look.
yeah, childcare, that is all in red. Yeah,
Oh.
that's the new part.
I remember having a discussion about this policy before. I don't know why we didn't adopt it, because we already do it.
And this is one they did originally put out. You'll see that in September 22. That was BS before Scott. I don't know why. No idea.
It's not. I don't like that. I think we should wait on this one until Robin can be a part of the discussion. I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees table policy 2600 work-based learning until we can discuss with the high school principal.
Second?
Okay, motion and second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
4.11, policy 3655, student safety.
Okay, House Bill 745 requires adoption of school districts of a student safety policy requiring a fingerprint criminal history check prior to any individual, employees, volunteers, chaperones, etc., having unsupervised contact with students. I think this is
Don't
the
we
one where they
do
added
that?
chaperone. I think this is the one that just added the word chaperone.
No, that's a different
Or
one.
was that a different one?
This one, I feel like we do already.
We do. What number is it?
3655.
What number is ours that we do?
It is,
C 120? Is that what we did?
I think it's third. Did they change the term unsupervised? Be here.
Okay, yeah.
For
that's
the
what
purpose of this
chaperone
policy, is
was.
that changed the wording? Compared to me?
Community relations, is that what it would be under?
I just looked at that, I didn't,
Is it a different number?
Student?
yeah.
I just looked, searched for numbers.
not-
If we didn't have the number and they said it was new, then I just left it as new.
It's 4301.
They got 5122, fingerprints and criminal background investigation.
5122?
Yeah, that's gonna come up in a little bit.
And that one we are adding chaperones. Do 120. Is that one.
But this wording isn't in there?
Not according to what they sent me. This is one they said was new. You can kind of tell by the way, it's just all in black, nothing on the bottom. They just said it was new.
Recommended adoption of 3655, according to House Bill.
That's not it.
As well as those two.
Oh, we had a volunteer one.
I mean, look at my, I like that.
Yeah.
Certain employees or volunteers who will never have unsupervised and therefore exempt from a background check. What would they-
I don't like that one.
I don't
either.
like that wording at
either.
all.
We make everybody go through a background check.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
According
mean-
to policy.
right. And that says you list who's on there, so if we didn't list anybody, probably we would exempt them. But I don't- That's weird for everybody.
Well, right now we don't do like a chaperone, so that's what they're adding for.
If they're not.
If you took an extra driver on a trip of
Oh,
a coaching
volunteers, I
deal,
see
we
what you're
wouldn't
saying. Okay, yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
do that, but we are gonna address that later.
Okay.
And then, so,
Yeah, this is one of the ones that said if you adopt it, then there's adjustments to the current.
Amendments to 5122 and so forth.
I just feel like this contradicts the one we already have in place. I would rather just amend the one we already have in place to include all volunteers.
yeah, cause this one says about like trustees looking at the background check and things like that too, and we've already outlined all of that.
Okay, so student safety, 3655. Say that again, Sabrina.
That it contradicts what the policy we already have in place.
Which one was it?
Which one is
5120.
Is that 5122?
51,
22?
22.
22, that's, yeah, that's what we're looking at too, okay.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees does not approve the first reading of new policy 3655, student safety as presented, as this is all incorporated in policy 5122.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. Policy 3650.
Okay, this was to align with HB 631 and Senate Bills 297. These bills collectively amend definitions for the Pupil Online Protection Act. And to see the specifics on that, you have to go into it. And it's kind of right in the middle, definitions, K-12 school purposes. I don't know if you want me to read that or if you've already looked those over. They're just going into defining K-12 school purposes. It's an addition. Though we didn't have it, I couldn't find it. Doesn't mean that you're not gonna find it in a different one, but said I was looking for numbers, not so much topics that you guys are a little more familiar with.
These bills collective amend definitions for the Pupil Online Protection Act. So the bills just amended definitions, and we didn't have that policy, so I don't think we need to do that. Because we don't need to change a policy that we didn't originally.
Right, we'd have to adopt it as a new policy, so I put that in there.
Right, but do we need it?
We just have to comply with the Montana Pupil Online Personnel Information Protection Act. It's kind of like what Brittany said, we still have to follow it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter if we wanted a policy or not to refer to.
I mean, I suppose it's
Do we
okay.
have video like all of this in ours?
I mean, if it's gonna be required, we don't already have it as a policy, it doesn't hurt anything. to
Yeah, we
it
do
as
have
a
policy
There's something to
3235.
fall
We have
back on
these,
or
we have
refer
these,
to
right?
with that policy.
3612. These are our crossword,
That's what I
or
thought on
these
this
are
one.
ones we've approved.
Yeah, this is just protection of their
Yeah,
online
we have
personal
all of those.
information.
Yeah,
Okay,
right, okay.
alrighty. And it's first reading?
Yeah.
Okay, I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves policy 3650, Montana Pupil Online Personal Information Protection Act, as presented on the first reading.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. 4.13, policy 5123, verification of employee.
HB 226 requires confirmation of citizenship or work authorization status. So to comply with this bill, they provided us with, again, what they said is new policy. I couldn't find it, but it doesn't mean that you couldn't find it someplace else to read it. It seemed kind of strange to me too, because these are things that I would think we do anyway.
We're required to complete an I-9.
Yeah.
And we have those on file for everybody, and that's what that does.
Yep.
You need a policy telling you to do that?
I don't know, I'm sure it's in there somewhere in like hiring processes or something, but we do the I-9
Yeah.
for every employee. So we don't even have an or, we don't even do the first one,
Yeah,
we just
'cause the
do the
first one,
I-9 and
Yeah.
demand
Just
it.
do the B. Okay.
Right, because the I-9 can be for, even if someone's here on a visa,
Mhm.
they're still in the I-9, it's just different documentation required,
Right.
so.
Right,
Yeah, you just need a driver's license if they were gonna drive. You know,
Right,
vehicle.
right,
Well,
but that,
no,
this is for.
Yep.
These are really stupid.
I kind of agree.
Yeah.
I think it's repetitive.
Because again, it goes back to law.
I just don't like
So
to
are
junk
there-
up our policy
Are there,
manual.
yeah,
with things
just
I know,
versus-
there's
not doing
so
any of this,
many.
so we have to make it a law, or what? is
Some will do.
that?
It's already a federal law to do an I-9.
Yeah.
That's a federal document. But Montana says you can use the I-9 as part of this policy.
What does I-9 do?
It verifies your citizenship.
Citizenship.
Because the 5120 says every newly hired employee must complete an immigration and naturalization service form as required.
Yeah,
by
I
federal
just
law.
read that.
So,
So we have it.
We
seems
have
like
it.
it's covered.
What policy was that in?
5120,
5120.
Okay,
hiring process and criteria.
all right. I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees does not approve the first reading of policy 5123, employer verification of employee, because this information is already presented in policy 5120.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment? In the board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Policy 8560.
All right, HB 819 prohibits the display of flags or banners on district property other than specific types of flags identified in the bill. And they list them out, which ones you can have. And they do talk about what you shouldn't have to, yeah. Paragraph right below the list.
Do we,
Sorry, my hamstring is just.
That was fun policy meeting.
the last one, I don't know if you, I mean, they sent it out, but the last one,
Okay,
we did not.
not adopted.
It's already included in one of our other policies.
And
Private speech.
Okay,
it passed.
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. 4.15,
We're already there.
already there.
Oh, no, we're on 4.14.
4.14.
Oh, sorry.
We're just looking at the,
Oh, the flags. That was already.
So this is law now?
They're all based on legislation.
I'm not, okay, keeping my mouth shut and we'll just move forward with. Yes, we adopt it
We
because
have
we
to
have.
comply with the law, right? We don't
Is
have
it-
to
yeah.
adopt it as a policy.
we have to comply with the law, but we don't have to adopt it as a policy.
One way or the other, we'll be following this.
Okay, then we don't need it in our policy manual. I think if we're gonna be following it no matter what, I agree with you, it muddies the waters.
Keep it simple.
Did you find anything like this one?
I was just looking.
I followed this law when it was going through.
Okay.
Flags or banners. I mean, we do have a lot of banners, so maybe we do need to adopt it just so people understand what they can and cannot hang.
I could see it could protect maybe
Uh-huh.
your principals a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
You
what I
have to Say
was,
no to things, you know.
Okay.
People see
won't
policy.
sway you too far,
I
but
think
I
because
like
if
this.
it's already in there, and we don't have anything like it, we might as well adopt it, so then we have it. If we have
It's
to
a
do it
pretty
anyway,
quick list,
right?
then,
I mean, we
okay.
might as well
That's what I
just
keep
say.
saying.
And it's
If
not
they're
covered in
saying
any of
you
our.
We don't have
do
this
it.
one covered
It's
anywhere
not
else.
in
You
any
might
of
as
them.
well
No.
put it in your policy,
Okay, right.
so you always have something
Yeah.
to
If we
refer
gotta
to.
follow it, and it's not, we don't already have it.
Okay. I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the policy 8560, display of flags and banners on district property for first reading.
Second,
First reading.
do we need a second?
No.
It's required.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. 4.15,
Okay, 4.15, House Bill 602 specifies that non-renewal of a non-tenured teacher for financial reasons is non-renewal without cause and requires the matter to be placed on a board meeting agenda before June 1.
And what does our non-renewal say now?
It's June 1, but I'm thinking it's the financial reasons.
So if we're laying people off because our budget gets cut, this is the one you would use.
You can tell the public now that you're non-renewing them for financial reasons,
reason.
and they won't look at it as without or with cause.
Gotcha.
So right now,
Cannot
under the
Yeah.
current,
And you
you're,
can't say that.
yeah,
Right.
because that would be with cause, so
Yep.
they change the language.
I do like that.
I move
Yeah.
the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves policy 5252 on first reading, notice of non-renewal of non-tenured teacher for financial reasons.
Second,
that was you, right, Angie?
yes.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. 4.16,
Okay, House Bill 7475, or 745, sorry, requires adoptions of school districts of a student's safety policy requiring a fingerprint criminal history check prior to any individual, employees, volunteers, chaperones, et cetera, having unsupervised contact with students. And this one had several options, which we have actually policy on this one. It wasn't in our board docs online or our policy manuals. It was adopted it was April 8th of 2024. And they found it. Chris and Brittany informed me that you guys did go through this one. This one has been done, all except one part. So the part that's not was the first part that says who needs to be fingerprinted, which is all individuals 18 years of age or older to be volunteers. Okay, they add the word chaperone, sorry, just the word chaperones. This is what I was thinking of, came up maybe earlier. And then they put some wording in there, or recommended for hire by the school district, and in red it says who will have unsupervised access to students. So that's the only piece of it. All those other options have already been gone through by you guys over a year ago.
Good. I move that the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the revision to policy 5120P, hiring process and criteria, federal background check, fingerprint, and information handling procedure, listed in section 1, adding chaperones and unsupervised access to students.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that 4.17?
That was 4.16.
Six, okay.
We're on 4.17.
4.17. Okay, this one is following the last one. There's just a couple of word changes, but in order to comply with House Bill 745 again, MTSB recommends amendments, and you'll see a couple of words changed here. They took off regular and this left unsupervised access. And I think, yeah, another one with including chaperones again.
Yep.
Just aligning those two.
Yeah.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the first reading of recommended changes to policy 5122, fingerprints and criminal background check investigations as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any public comment on this agenda item? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. Four by 1A.
Okay, following the same order of business with those two last ones, in order to comply with House Bill 745 again, they recommend these changes. I think they're just one word change on this one for
Yeah,
Yep.
volunteers, yeah.
regular.
Okay,
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves first reading of the recommended change to policy 5430 NF volunteers, volunteer agreement form as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. Four by 1.9.
okay, another update, HB 567 is related to multi-district agreements. It provides an incentive for countywide multi-district agreements. And so they're recommending updates to our policy 1007 FE for multi-district agreements.
Our multi-district agreement is just between our high school and elementary district, right? So will this really affect us then?
I'm not really sure. I didn't, honestly, I'll be honest, I didn't get a chance to really look at this one and compare it to what our current one looks like.
Well, and this was an update, so
Yeah,
to me, it's just adding some of the words. It's the, I don't know if you want to look at that main paragraph down there.
I just don't know if we have all of that in our policy currently.
I would think not, since they've struck out one line and added the, the few lines there. Wasn't a new one that we would have already had, it's just an update to.
do you want
what we
time
do
to
have.
review it before we adopt it?
Yeah, if I could,
Okay. You want me to table it?
sure.
I move to table item 4.19, policy 1007 FE, multi-district agreements until the business manager / accounts payable person can,
Payroll.
person can review it.
Second.
Okay, I have motion and second table. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry about that. I'll
No worries.
spend some time on that.
4.20.
4.20 policy, House Bill 250 revises provisions related to out-of-district attendance. So we already have this, and this is one that I believe the way you put it was required.
Mhm.
we'll want to do this. I think it had to do with funding, online.
We already have this
Remote.
policy.
Yeah, we have it. They just added how to calculate A and B.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the recommended changes to policy 2050 innovative student instruction as presented on first reading.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any public comment on this? Any for the board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. Four point two one.
Okay, House Bill 591, and this is another one of the ones that Lance Melton today listed is required for us to do. Adds Freedom Week to the list of commemorative days set forth in 20-1-306 MCA, in order to educate students about the sacrifices made for freedom and the founding of the United States and the values on which the United States was founded. So they've added freedom, was it a week or a day? I forget, I think it was week. Was
Last
it a
full
week?
week of September.
Yep.
Appropriate exercises, so we don't have to have no school days on those days. We just have to do
Mhm.
activities
Yeah,
related to them.
yeah, when you read through it, they kind of change that a little bit too, as far as how we do it. Superintendents and everything have to make sure it's carried out.
Okay. Do we already have this policy?
Well, we have to follow those days in the calendar.
We do
Those
have that
required by
policy,
law.
but they're adding that
Yeah, they're out of the day, their week,
week.
yeah, Freedom Week.
Okay, so it's just a change.
We do have that crossed out part at the beginning of that commemorative holidays currently.
Oh, right, because there's a little bit more, yeah.
Okay.
Than just the list.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approve the recommended changes to policy 2100 school closure calendar and day on the first reading.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any public comment on this? Any for the board?
Okay, and
Francis?
I just have a clarifying, sorry.
Go ahead.
So you will present a board approved exercise. So like we have like, this is what K through 12 is doing that you'll present to us at some later date. Is that?
Should I just read that to everybody? But yeah, that second paragraph in red, that's
Yeah.
gonna, that, this is a law we'll have to follow, so that will be something that I need to do, to present to you, yes.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. Sometimes I just have to, I can't
No, I
hear.
read that over a couple times myself, so.
So I apologize for that.
Well,
Okay.
that's a good question, because it used to be pretty much, and I don't know, the principal Bar would probably say that too, they always did it, but I know this says superintendent will present the exercises and, yeah, get ahead of that
Well,
too.
yeah, and I kind of like to that can be something that might be, it's a good thing. You know, I always think we should teach our students to value America and their history. The perspective though of the founding of America is really complex, especially with a lot of diversity in our upcoming generations. And I'm just saying, like, yeah, some of those things we should be able to talk about. And that way we're not getting any teachers in trouble or having any, just being sensitive. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Francis.
And Scott, you don't have to develop these because you can designate someone to
Oh, yeah,
develop them.
I won't be doing that.
Yeah, you just have to present them.
Yeah, cool.
Caption work. Huh?
I was waiting for you to give me some marching orders.
Okay, for grade 1, you're gonna do
I
that.
already thought about that, because I read that, like, okay.
I was actually looking at the man in the tie. I'm like, well, you got a few more things.
Should be a team joint effort.
There you go.
Advisory committee.
Done through announcements. Yeah, I used to have to do as principal, I did a lot of these, so. Yes, you guys will be helpful.
Is that also Native American Week?
Yeah, it is the same See, Native American, I believe, don't they designate that as just
There was
the
a day.
The fourth,
Monday.
But
it's the
doesn't-
fourth
Monday.
weekend of September. Let me see.
Fourth Friday in September.
Fourth Friday, where this is like that whole, it is the same. Yeah. This is a week, so. We have a week.
Make sure it's not homecoming as well.
Just the
Yeah.
Well aware of that.
All right, with that, Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. 4.22.
Right, Senate Bill 369 revises provisions related to suicide training and prevention. So they have spelled out for us how often, a little bit more clear, some changes there that I think we really need to follow.
I move that the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves policy 2150, suicide training and prevention on the first reading.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any public comment on this? Move for the board. Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. Four point 23, policy 2335.
Okay, 2335 is to comply with House Bill 471, which amends the requirements for mandatory notices to parents regarding human sexuality instruction and adds requirements related to identity instruction. MTSBA recommends amendment of policy 2335, human sexuality instruction and identity instruction. The policy name has also changed from health enhancement. So you're going to see that change to human sexuality instruction and identity instruction in red. And quite a few strike throughs and then the new explanations, I guess, of how we have to incorporate this. So these are pretty sensitive. Another reason why I brought this one here.
So is this just saying we have to give a notice when we're going to speak about these issues? It doesn't say we're not allowed to speak about these issues, right?
I think it's a notice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just an annual notice to parents.
Yes.
And then additional notice required, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, those are kind of towards the bottom of
Your
it.
event or assembly.
Mhm.
That last paragraph that you need to do a summary of curriculum.
Yeah.
You know, that's new too.
Hmm.
Public information.
Do the annual and then the additional. No fewer than 5 school days, no more than 14.
No fewer than 5? Oh, for notice?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
in addition
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, it tells us how to go about doing it all.
that's what allowed now.
Sure, some of these are just gonna be like reversed anyway, and once they hit the courts. Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the recommended changes to policy 2335, human sexuality instruction and identity instruction as presented on the first reading. Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any public comment on this?
Yeah, somewhere, Marietta Croft.
Go ahead, Marietta.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So since I teach government and we talk about stare decisis, and one of the cases that a lot of people use is the Roe case being overturned by the Dobbs case, which deals with abortion. Would I have to send a notice to parents at the start of the year just saying we're going to look at these cases? We're not talking about whether it's right or wrong. We're solely using them to show that the courts can change their decision over time.
Think so?
I don't think so either.
Okay, I just wanted to get a little clarification. Thank you.
We're all shaking our heads no,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's good to check.
Any further board? I agree with Sabrina. This will be brought back up eventually.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, with that, Francis,
Aye.
Sabrina,
Aye.
Angie,
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. 4.24.
All right, Senate Bill 181 revises provisions related to Indian education for all. And there's just a couple, some verbiage there. To work in consultation with tribes rather than just cooperatively, and when developing courses of study was added. So pretty brief, doesn't really change anything that we do.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the recommended changes to policy 2450, Indian education for all, on the first reading.
Second?
Okay, motion and second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis,
Aye.
Sabrina,
Aye.
Angie,
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
We're at 4.25.
Okay, this House Bill 400 is recommending this. Let's see, I'm going to read this one because this is pretty much how it's stated too in the policy recommendation. So prohibits adverse employment action or student disciplinary action against an individual that declines to provide their pronouns or declines to address another person by a name other than their legal name or by using a pronoun inconsistent with the person's sex. So you might want to take a look at down at the bottom. There it is. Exceptions. The student may not be subject to disciplinary action for declining to identify the student's pronouns or address a person by using a name other than the person's legal name or a derivative of the person's legal name or by using a pronoun or a title that is inconsistent with the person's sex. And they also, did I skip the part about,
So basically what's on the birth certificate.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're basically not going to punish an employee for using what's on the birth certificate, not a pronoun, or a student who may use legal name. They don't have to use the pronoun.
This is student discipline though. Or am I in the wrong one?
No,
Student, so a student can't get in trouble for calling another student a name other than what is on their birth certificate. Or,
yeah, I don't see the employee action. I'll have to look and see if there was a couple that I actually emailed Tony about, because I said, you didn't include these. There's one they ended up sending today, but he's on vacation, that they had left out. And so I'm waiting for a couple more, and I'm wondering if this is one of them then. It was on Thursday or Friday last week.
For employer?
It might be the one that's missing. There's a couple that were missing that I found.
Okay.
And so I asked them.
Isn't that in the 4.27? Was that for?
Yes, that's for the teachers. I knew we saw it.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
okay.
we talked
That's
about
not one of
these
the ones I asked.
in
Yeah,
length.
we talked to, let's throw this one around a little bit, but yeah, this wasn't the one then.
It's just a little later.
Yeah, there's,
Okay.
yeah.
it's not a free pass to be a jerk though, that's what I'll say.
Well, it is.
I know, but can we add that?
It is. Us. Just saying, that was my issue with it too.
But what does it say? Something about, doesn't it say it kind of under there? Does it clarify or no?
It's an exception.
Exception. What did it say?
Yeah,
Well, that'll go to federal reporting as well. so.
Student may not be subject to disciplinary action for declining to identify the student's pronouns, address a person by using a name other than the person's legal name, or derivative of the person's legal name, or by using a pronoun or a title that is inconsistent with the person's sex.
I would like to point out that we had a very upset parent come because we weren't using the legal name.
Yes, and what goes on their diploma? Is their legal name.
I just feel like this is gonna set up like a bullying situation in school. This has nothing to do with us announcing someone, or this is a student and student.
I think it's there.
I know. I just don't like it.
It's the next one, they do go hand in hand, 4.27, that's the,
Same goes for a
this,
teacher.
the teacher, yeah. And I know what you're talking about, because you do have to follow legal name, anything that we publish, or certificate name. So this one is speaking directly to, like, what you're saying, if another student is calling a student by a name that they say they prefer not to go by anymore, or if an adult is not using that, right, then you can't punish them. So there, it's definitely a kind of a whole different tweak on it. I mean, we have to still, we're gonna always do that with what we put on diploma or what we announce or
I completely agree.
programs.
I completely agree. Right?
I know, and this isn't a place
But I'm
for
gonna
me
call
to
you
like.
Sabrina, and if you say, I don't wanna go by Sabrina anymore, and I mess up and still call you Sabrina, I'm not gonna get in trouble.
Are we students? And how many times have I told you not to call me that?
That's
Has it been 50? Because then you should get in trouble.
been twice.
So then that's fine, I'll give you that pass. But if it's 50, then no, absolutely not.
I know.
It's a tough one.
Well, I know it's the law, but I'm voting no on principle. Because I can.
Yes, you can.
This is the law, right?
Everyone they sent me, they said was legislation.
Yes.
Yeah, it says HB 400 prohibits
Yeah.
adverse
First
employment action or student disciplinary action.
disciplinary action. Yep.
So if we don't adopt this policy, going back to that, we still have to follow the law.
Yes.
Okay. I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the first reading of recommended changes to policy 3310, student discipline as presented.
I'll second. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this?
We still have to follow the law.
Any further board comment on this?
We still have to follow the law.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
But we don't
have,
have to allow bullying.
Yeah.
we
And I
do
think
not have to
that's
allow
not-
bullying. I completely agree, but we have to have a policy to fall back on.
But if they, even still, if this is a House bill and a student comes and says, hey, look, this is the law, I can do this, even though it's not in our policy,
Or we agree or disagree with it.
Mhm.
so it's still law.
I know, but I'm still disagreeing.
Well, and I think if you read the whole thing, you know, like it says at the top, disciplinary action may be taken against any student guilty of, but not limited to.
Except for the exemption or exception.
I think this
But if
can
it falls under that,
require us to just sharpen up the anti-bullying policy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is,
Absolutely.
should be done anyway.
Yeah, just to distinguish that, you say, okay, I'm not gonna argue this point that you're using a fact, but you're using a fact to harm somebody.
Yeah,
I mean, you say,
right.
If somebody has a, physical disability,
I agree.
a student can point that out and say, well, I'm just calling out the fact. Well, but we're training the students to say, no, what is your intention with calling out that fact?
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
bullying practice. So you say the fact, but
I
now
agree.
that's not even an issue, so you bypass that and just say, but you're doing this intentionally to hurt somebody.
And we have counselors, principals, and superintendents, and all those people in place to deal with that, so. Okay. With that, I'll go to the vote. Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
No.
Angie?
Aye.
Tip?
Aye.
Aye. 4.26, policy 3416.
All right, House Bill 600, Senate Bill 211, and Senate Bill 502 collectively address emergency administration of asthma medications and opioid antagonists. So we have our alignment with those.
We just updated this one not
Just-
too long
Yeah, we
ago.
Yeah.
did, because I remember having the discussion about that.
And I wasn't sure if we had every single thing in here to the T, so I put in
No, yeah,
as they
it's,
recommended. Did you-
I think it's
I
good.
think it's pretty well covered.
Yeah.
It's pretty long, this one's real long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's important though.
I agree with this one.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves recommended changes to policy 3416, administering medicines to students on the first reading.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Okay. Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
4.27.
Okay, this one is House Bill 400 prohibiting adverse employment action, and they are lumped together, but this is the one for an employee, so, sorry, I'm losing my voice. Prohibits adverse employment action or student disciplinary action against an individual that declines to provide their pronouns or declines to address another person by a name other than their legal name or by pronouncing or using, a pronoun inconsistent with the person's sex. And then when you go into the red on this, you'll see no employee is what is discussed here. No employee, regardless of the scope of the employee's official duties, may be subjected to an adverse employment action for declining to, and then the rest is the same as we've just recently had.
It's the same. It's the same thing.
I know,
So do we, yeah,
except for it's for grown-ups this time.
I know, and is there something, I mean, same thing, a grown-up can take it too far either way as well. Do we have something that protects?
Because I think what you're kind of getting into is, are they bantering somebody?
Right, right.
I mean,
I
there's,
mean, we all have our beliefs, but there's still kindness and whatever and acceptance, and we have to be accepting of that.
right,
But if it's a law,
you would hope that it wouldn't be misused,
right,
that
is there,
it's like somebody said here, maybe Steve a little bit ago, they call the student's name off there, because I did it all the time.
Yeah.
As a teacher, I'd read especially the first day, right, you read roll call, and you read, I don't go by that name, I go by my middle name or whatever, I just say, it's a legal name. And some teachers just, they do choose to use it, because this is what, I don't know, I forget the kid, what did he want to be called? Some nickname, Spaz or something like, I'm not calling you that, it's
Right.
Spencer. Yeah, it was a long, long time ago. So you'd hope that
There's also there's a way around some of those pronouns. Even as an educator or a principal or a teacher, you don't, there's that last name is.
Yeah.
Like I said, I agree. I'm gonna catch shift this when I get home, but I agree. I'm just saying.
yeah, I just think it's a tricky one, because you want people to be protected all around,
Feel safe.
but you don't want,
That's why I think if we take that and just add without being a jerk at the end of it.
that's kind of what I'm trying to say. in a
Yeah.
politically correct way,
I don't think the House is gonna put that.
We can add stuff to our policies.
We
We're allowed
can,
to do
we
that.
can,
Yeah.
we can. Hashtag.
okay,
I'll entertain a motion.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves first reading of recommended changes to policy 5255, disciplinary action as presented.
I'll second.
I was gonna say, you're probably gonna have to.
I'm sorry, I'm missing the eye contact this time, Steve.
Yes, I am looking right behind my computer.
Touchy.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis,
Aye.
Sabrina,
No,
Angie,
I,
Tiff?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we've almost made this all the way through. 4.28.
Okay, this one, I'll read to you and just talk, I'll add a little bit to it. House Bill 651 permits installation of temporary door locking devices for use during shelter in place or emergency lockdown situations with violation of fire codes. This one interests me. I haven't had time to delve into it. I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on this because I have been trained that you never use these, and now it's going through legislation to use these against our choice. And I have looked into cost. Yet there's different types of these that you can get. I've heard they can hinder safety, so I'm really curious to find out what type they're recommending, the legislation, or if they found some that are supposed to be, really good. So I'm not hugely in favor of you just adopting this one tonight, just because of cost and because of kind of looking at all sides. But I kind of wanted to know, because I get different things on this. I've heard, some people just swear by these. Yeah, and there's like, this has to be 48 inches, I think, high, and that kind of thing. There's a lot of regulations with it, but.
Can I share something real quick?
Yeah.
So the state major maintenance aid, you guys have heard me talk about that before. If we have a little skin in the game, the state will provide some money to us. I heard at my training, basically, you're dumb if you don't take advantage of this money, okay? Because they did just increase it this year. So I have looked into that, and this is exactly what it would pay for. Anything that is
It would cover the cost of it all.
safety for your building.
Yeah.
This can cover it. Any kind of like fire suppression that we do, anything that is like safety building wise, it will cover. So if you are thinking about that, and we haven't had that conversation yet, but.
No, I think it'd be well researched for them to put it in legislation. I think there's always new and improved things coming out. Yeah, I'd really like to look at it.
So that's
I
not.
mean, I understand where this is all coming from. I get it. I do think it takes a little bit on your end with your principals to figure out just exactly what you guys want to use. I don't think the board, and I'm speaking for myself, I don't think the board is going to be objective to that.
Yeah.
I think it's what fits. I would probably say the individual buildings themselves, what fits best for you, Bart, and whatnot, so.
Okay.
This doesn't say that you have to block the fire exit. It just says you are now allowed to.
In
So
the
you
event
could
of like a
adopt
lockdown.
Yeah, so you can, and before you couldn't.
I don't think,
That's all it's giving us.
they're
is
not
the
referring
option.
to any kind of fire situation here. So I think I
Right.
know what we're all referring to,
Mhm.
Mhm.
so.
Shelter in place, emergency lockdown.
Yeah.
Tornado.
Tornado. So, yeah. I mean, if you want to, I guess it doesn't matter.
No,
I think we can
Well, the
approve
I
of
think we
that
can approve it and you guys can.
And then you can go after.
if they
after
want
that,
it.
If you want.
If you want to do the temporary door locks, is that what you're?
Get us back to us. Okay.
But we just give them the option to look into
do
that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And to do what they want, especially if there's monies out there to
Mhm.
pay for it, so.
Sounds good.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the recommended changes to policy 8301, school safety on the first reading.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Any public comment on this? Any further board? Francis?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
All right.
Aye. Okay. With that, we'll move into our work session. Facilities update. I have something on that. I met with Austin Blady today. He's gonna take care of the slab we pulled out of that door at the middle school and replace that. He's still looking at that ramp for the activities entrance.
Good.
So I need, and I'll get a hold of Robert, I can do that. I need him to do a locate and then just mark out those sprinklers. I think Austin and I spent some time there today. I'm not too worried about the sprinklers, but I definitely don't want him doing anything in the dirt without a locate.
Yeah.
So, and we'll go from there on that. So
How are we coming along on our big facilities overhaul thing?
the last meeting we had with Mr. Bush, he had some renderings, some drawings. They look good.
When are we gonna?
They took those soil samples too.
Yep, he had to do some soil samples. He has. I don't want to get too far into it because we're going to have a big community meeting on this. The one thing that he really wanted to know about was turf, natural turf
That's right.
to artificial. And it was like I said, he is worried about the situation we're in now with the settling. And if we go back with that, we're probably seeing the same thing where he can go in and, like I said, there were some things. He said, anything new is going turf, not natural. Just because of basically maintenance. and all
Lots of
that.
maintenance, yeah, he really was pro that way, that's.
So that was the
Kids didn't
one.
like playing on it.
They don't like playing on it.
It would be that, I told him, I said, that's fine. I want to see it in natural and in
Mhm.
synthetic. And we would let the community decide on that. It's not
Mhm.
a decision that this board's going to make by any means. But, I cautioned him to have your pros and cons and why all the new structures are going to this.
Also replacement cost and how long it lasts would be important to know.
Yeah. So,
So are we thinking we're gonna be able to present that to the vote?
we're hoping in August, yes.
August is when we would go to a vote or start the process of.
I'm hoping, I need to get with Tyler. So it's been, what,
About a month.
about a month?
Maybe.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to have something out there, maybe in a special meeting in July, late July, that
Okay.
we can get something out there. So,
Because then it takes about 3 months to get it to the vote.
yep, then we gotta get it. So,
Okay,
everything looked pretty good.
Good.
I liked it. Everything's on this side. We're getting rid of the visitor section. So we have the
yeah,
narrative.
that's great.
Who
I
gets to
think.
get on that track,
Mhm.
who doesn't?
Yeah.
Everything's on the one side,
Nice.
so.
Yeah, it was once.
That's how most schools are now.
We looked at, and we referenced, of course, Red Lodge, Laurel. Even Mr. Dussault told me the other day, he was at the AD, Jefferson's going through it, do this
Yeah,
right
he sent
now.
me a text on that too.
Oh,
So I think they're in the,
Cool.
so somebody to reference.
mhm.
Did he say what kind of turf they're going on, or surface?
He did not. I need to ask Tom
Yeah.
what surface they were going with, but like I said, he's just throwing out options. The renderings look great, I think.
Mhm.
So, and Robert threw some stuff in there that I don't think is gonna, a big hiccup. There's already a big pad where those bleachers sit for the visiting.
Mhm.
And he was thinking maybe we could throw some kind of if we go natural or if we go turf, something to utilize that pad for equipment storage or whatever
Yeah,
else
that'd
as
be
well.
smart.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, everything looked
Good.
good.
I just want to keep making sure we're making progress.
We're still there, yep. So, and Wade is still up to par on this as well. He doesn't want to be completely left out.
Good.
So, yeah, no, we're moving. So, in
Citizen
fact, it
report.
probably wouldn't hurt, since it's been about a month since you and I have talked to them, just to reach out to Tyler and see where it's at. But,
Yep.
yeah. I think the biggest thing was, well, go ahead and show us this, but show us with the natural as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah. I haven't, as far as case tickets go right now, I know those guys are busy, so I'm sure
Yeah,
they're working right along. Is there anything else in facilities?
no, Robert stops in off and on to give me updates and things were moving good at the middle school, the carpeting and all that, so.
With that, we'll move into, we've done enough policy. So, Evan?
All right, I'll just give you some highlights to what I have in the report. Mostly it's just a highlight of the year and of this month in the report. 3 highlights is this week. I'm waiting for confirmation from Range they're gonna send a technician out. They're expecting, he'll contact me this week to do some more tests of what it would take to get the fiber optic cable moved from middle school over to here for the high school being the primary internet. And then, so that's just still in the works, but I'm hoping we can get some final numbers on that. And a plan to possibly do that this school year is move that over. So then it's just one thing off of out of the middle school. And then this is more for Barb, but just to let the board know, I got a hold of CenturyLink/Lumen, our phone provider. We've had trouble for, well, since I started, probably longer than that, of 911 calls when it leaves the elementary school and the middle school. Police dispatch get a callback number that's no longer part of our account. It was like disconnected years ago. And it's difficult to get some help from CenturyLink on this, but our account rep complained and they've set up a meeting either tomorrow or Wednesday. And I'm requesting a technician or somebody come out here to figure out why our phone lines are not going off properly. So the school will see that, or the police department sees that a 911 call is coming from one of our buildings. But if they call that number back, it goes to a dead line. So that just lets you know we're working on that, trying to get an answer out of them for that. And then a highlight that's in my report, the printer contract we have with Dex Imaging, formerly 360 Office out of Billings, that is going to come expire in November. I think in a previous board meeting, I told you that it was expiring in May, and that was a mistake, just a misunderstanding of what we had. But I'm talking with the Dex Imaging salespeople for proposals of what it will cost. A couple of proposals replace all the printers we have right now in our fleet, which it's at least 3 large copy machines at each building in every classroom with a printer, either black and white or a color printer. And so what is the cost of full replacement? What is the cost of reducing, if that's where the administration team wants to go? Or what is the cost of upgrading our primary machines, our heavy use machines, and then just we accept all the old machines and use them at our own cost until they die. Because as I understand from the Dex salespeople, we do have a unique school district in that many other customers do not have printers in every room. So just something for us to be aware of. And I don't know what that cost looks like right now per month, but it's a 5-year contract that we're coming up on. So sometime in November, there'll be talk of getting new printers. The number I'll just talk more with the administration and principals to know how we want to go about doing that.
Works for me.
So that's all I got, unless you have questions.
Mr. Kirchner?
All right, Title VI. This was a process to go through. I enjoyed it. So in my report, you can see the breakdown of student numbers and the projected Title VI allocation. 25-26, we were down almost 40 students with the Title VI form, and down right around $10,000 in our projected Title VI allocation. The reduction in student numbers is just due to we had really big class sizes in kindergarten and in 2nd grade this year, and so we had to turn away students and their families as well. Also, what I found as I was going through this list is that we have students who are members of our local tribes, but they do not have an ED 506 form turned in. And so I legally cannot count them in our Title VI count. So just talking with the Indian Parent Committee, which is also part of this process, I just asked them, for guidance on that. And they said, let's just send a new form out to everybody and see if we can get those numbers shored up. So luckily our secretaries at each building have been kind enough to help me out with that. We're going to be sending those out with the student handbooks at the beginning of the school year. So hopefully we get that number up. I was seeing some of the student names that I couldn't count. It's like, I've taught these kids and I know they're part of the Cheyenne tribe. So, but I couldn't count them. So, interesting looking at the goals. I have not changed the goals at all on the actual grant application, but the goals that were identified in 24-25 were not the actual goals. They said that we're in 24-25, they specifically stated that we're trying to increase achievement in reading and math, but really the actual goal on the form was that we're just going to increase academic achievement. And so That's a little bit more wide open, what we're looking at there. I really, in order to achieve that goal, I really think we need to redefine, maybe further develop our assessment strategy, because we really have just assessments that show growth or student placement on a continuum. But we don't really have any assessment data that shows why kids place where they place on a continuum, or why they grow, or why we see a lack of growth. So right now I'm looking with Renaissance to pilot their DNA assessment program, which allegedly allows you to develop criterion referenced assessments. And we're looking to pilot that. I'm gonna meet with them again on Wednesday here just to see what the pricing looks like for that. But if we get something that gives us more of a why and not just the what, I think that would really help us show academic achievement and why kids are achieving where they are. And I think it would help us provide more effective interventions for kids in our school. Increased knowledge of cultural identity. We had that. Our school does a spectacular job, all of our schools do a spectacular job of incorporating Indian Ed for All in the classrooms. As a matter of fact, the majority of this report is just what we've been doing. I mean, it's pages upon pages of stuff that we do in our schools. So we're doing a great job there. The next one was not included previously, but this one was actually one that when I met with the Indian Parent Committee, they specifically identified this one. We want to increase college enrollment. In particular, they said that they would like to see us provide more support, helping kids apply to colleges, helping them apply for scholarships. Just those were areas that were areas of difficulty for parents, and so they would like to see us improve support for kids there. And then I know Scott and I have talked a lot amongst ourselves about the last one, but increased activities for violence, suicide, and substance abuse prevention. So we're looking at improving that. So let's see. And then a little bit later on, there was just some key points from the Indian Parent Committee. I told them that I didn't have a lot of say on most of these things, but I'd be happy to pass them along. And so that's what I'm doing with this report. And some of this stuff is just, these are things that we've been talking about all year long, like with busing concerns, for instance. I mean, that's something we've talked about quite a bit. One that was kind of interesting was just, we have some pretty lucrative opportunities in our own community that kids could get with the plant or with the mine right out of high school, and have nice careers and no college. But the parents of this committee said that our students cannot get those jobs because they can't pass entrance exams to get those careers. So I think it's imperative that we work with the plant, work with the mine to see if we can shore up some things and help kids get those jobs. I mean, if we keep our kids home and give them a good career opportunity, I think that's a real advantage for anybody. So anyways, that's my report in a nutshell.
I think our VOTEC could really get ramped up. And I know it's not, we just need to do this. I mean, we have to get the people in to do it. I mean, this is a very trades community. So I agree.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
8.02, the rotation.
I get to talk about that this meeting. All right, so we switched fine arts and language arts. So language arts was 24-25. We're doing fine arts 25-26. I've actually already met with the folks on that committee just to try to get some preliminary ideas as to what they're going to be looking for with regard to purchases. Trey had a great idea. This is one that I think we need to keep on our radar, is to have a rotation for music instrument maintenance. Just try to keep what we have in good condition, good working condition for kids. So if we can figure out just kind of how to get a rotation schedule going for that, I think that was really the big consistent purchase that they were looking at. Working with math also this year, trying to get us to align with the new state Common Core standards that are gonna be coming out here in 26. So we're gonna be busy.
Just real quick, has the board met and changed this? Seems like before I got here, this year, or do they need to? Wasn't this already switched?
I
around?
remember making.
We
a motion.
changed.
Yeah, we did.
We changed it. We went to language arts correct last year.
Yeah.
We pushed the fine arts back a year.
Yep.
Because it was 95 on
Yeah.
the language arts as well.
Well,
And we felt
I
that
sat in on that meeting.
that was, not taking anything away from fine arts, but
We felt language
That
arts
was-
was imperative to
yeah.
get
Yeah.
updated.
that's why that got,
So we can formally change that on here, just.
yes, you can.
There was a motion we made, and I remember doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
I
the
remember that too.
Steering committee, we all met and then we changed it up for.
Thanks.
In fact, I think we can talk about mathematics,
We did
about
talk about moving.
bringing that.
I actually think it's advantageous where it's at right now.
Okay.
Because we're gonna have those new standards rolling out,
Yeah.
so that this will give us a year to get the alignment piece going
Good,
before we start looking at instructional resources.
because yeah, I believe that was it was either language or mathematics, and we were kind of, yeah. I think language was the one that was the longest, wasn't it? Okay,
Yeah, because
We
I
did get
got
that
Derek
ASAP.
right on that when he got here.
We did-
and of course, we're always open to
Mhm.
what you guys think
Mhm.
as curriculum and principals. If, if we're looking at, I know we're aligning mathematics, are going to, if something, that list's not gospel.
Yeah, sure.
So
I think it looks good for right now.
Okay. That works for me.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Anything else? All right, with that,